Man School 202. Better hear what I've got to say because you won't get it again.
I'm not an alpha male. I'm not a beta male either. I'm just a better man. Better man. Well, put your happiness first, because if you don't, they won't.
Yo. What up? GYBB, get your balls back. WWDD, what would Dante do? You know what it is. We had a little technical difficulty, so we started a little late. But put the numbers up because we only got an hour. That 347-464-2827. If somebody needs some help, call up. I'm not going through all there's some things I wanted to talk about, but we started a little late. So if anybody was holding on to get a call in, who's been going through it this weekend or last week or whatever, 347-464-2827. We got a call. Let's go.
Hello?
Oh, can you turn that down, Mike? Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, what's up? Who am I speaking with? How can I help you, bro?
My name's Joe.
What up, Joe? How are you?
Good. I wanted your expertise since I've been listening to you for a while.
I appreciate you.
And so I've been doing, the 5 bricks and stuff, but
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with avoidant attachment style.
Meaning what? I'm not sure what that means.
So I have issues with intimacy, whenever I get close
Yeah.
with a woman, I tend to push away. So
Okay. And why are you doing that?
Well, it comes from childhood trauma and stuff.
I get that.
But
I
am working on it, of course.
What kind of childhood trauma? You mind talking about it?
Just not a great father, not being told I love you and things like that. So,
okay. Joe, let me ask you this. So, how old are you now?
I am 34.
Okay. So, and just not having a great father, was he around or was he around? Did he leave or what?
Nah, he was around. It's just never told me he loved me. Kind of, I guess he gave me this feeling like I didn't turn out the way he wanted me to.
Okay,
I didn't
let me ask you something.
Yeah.
What's your dad do for a living, Joe?
He works at a distribution center for a company.
Was he particular? Were you guys rich? Y'all made a shitload of money?
Nah, he immigrated over, and he just wanted me to be like an engineer. And
immigrated
stuff,
from where? Immigrated from where?
Mexico.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something, and I don't want you to be offended by this, but I want you to understand something that I'm speaking from the experiences. I have counseled a lot of dudes, especially immigrants who come here
Yeah.
from other places, and one of the problems with coming over as an immigrant and having immigrant parents is because they're shitty parents. Okay, now they're great when it comes to survival, right?
Yeah.
Because they understand, because that's what they had to practice and what they had to go through themselves, right? But when it comes to where you're talking about intimacy or self-actualization or
Mhm.
the pursuit of happiness, they suck at it, right? Because it was just something that they never had an opportunity to practice, or there was no need for it. Because, if you're immigrating from someplace else, and you're coming here for the land of milk and honey or whatever bullshit they sell us, right?
Yeah.
We're in a situation where this is somebody who's inequipped to be a good father, right? Now, what do you
No,
do
I
for
agree.
what
I
do you do
agree.
for a living now?
I am a teacher.
Okay, are you a good teacher?
Yeah. I think I'm a great teacher.
Okay, and so have you ever seen? And I mean, I'm quite sure you have. Especially with the economy and everything, there's people who have taken teaching jobs who really don't care about the kids, and they're shitty teachers. I'm quite sure whatever school you work at, you have some shitty teachers. Yeah.
Yes, but
Okay.
I try to provide them with like a great teacher because I didn't have one growing up, so I
Okay.
want
So
to
now let me
give
ask you
them that.
this: these crappy teachers that you see where you work, right? If they told you that you were that you were a shitty teacher, what would you say? How would you feel about that?
Well, I know it's not true because like there's evidence. I've been doing it for over a decade. I've had students come back that are going to go to college and tell me how much they enjoyed
So
me as a teacher.
you have livable proof that evidential proof that you're a good teacher. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And testimonials. Yeah.
yeah.
And so wouldn't matter what if they said that you were a shitty teacher, right?
No, because they don't know.
Okay, let's make this jump together. All right, hold my hand. We're gonna make this jump together.
All right.
Uh, your father was a shitty dad, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, he was abused too, so I think it's just like a cycle, you know.
I
And
get
I'm
that,
trying to
and
break
I
it.
and I was
Yeah.
gonna say the second thing I was gonna say to say to you is that, we have to learn to forgive the people who don't have the intellectual or the intellectual maturity or acuity to be that way, because he was abused and he never learned it, right? But
Yeah.
if we both, because I mean, you can't be a teacher and not know basic logic and reasoning, right?
Of course.
Okay, so we both agree that your dad was a shitty dad, and we're not blaming him for it because of the fact that he was abused and he went through it, right? My
Mhm.
question is, if he's a shitty dad, do you think that he would be a good guy to figure out whether a kid is a good person or not?
Oh, I guess not.
Right. So then his opinion of you, even though I do understand that we as children, we look up to our parents because that's what we're taught to do, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the Latino faith, yes, in Latino
Yeah.
culture, right?
Of
But we have
course.
to step back, and at 34 years old, I need you to use your logic and your reasoning, as opposed to being in a situation where you are just accepting the opinion of somebody who really doesn't even have the right to have an opinion on you.
Yeah. So you're saying that like translates over into my relationships, right?
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is you're also 34 years old, and you
Mhm.
still are affected by something that happened by somebody who is incapable of giving you the affection and the support that you needed in the first place, that any child would need. And if anybody understands what nurturing and encouragement, how important that is, you would know that, because you do that with your students every day, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's put me in the whole brackish fish situation because whenever I'm in a relationship where they're like affectionate and loving.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but
No,
I
you
panic.
want to. You're just not accustomed to it, and it makes
No,
you.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to panic, but I
Oh,
panic.
right,
Is
but
what
you
I'm
panic,
saying.
right?
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
is? But what I'm saying here is, is your father still alive?
Yes.
Okay. Are you close with him? You talk to him, or you don't talk to him?
I do when that's like absolutely necessary,
Okay, so
but
you try not to talk to
yeah.
him.
Yeah,
So
because it's just not conducive to my happy life, you
I
know?
get you. I get you. And trust me, I'm not judging you in any shape or form. But what I do want to say is, if you have somebody in your life who you don't even really, you avoid them at every point. Why do you? Because what your anxiety about affection and stuff like that is comes from somebody who really didn't give you affection, but also probably didn't have the capability of doing it in the first place because he had been abused and because he I mean, he went through things himself, even the things probably even worse than some of the things that you went through. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And so I think as much as you avoid him, in terms of personal communication and stuff, I think you need to avoid his opinion of you, because for no other reason than his opinion is not valid, right?
That makes sense, yeah.
And how can you hold and let somebody who didn't even have the emotional maturity to give you the love and the concern that is important. I mean, you've been doing this for 10 years, and every year you get a new class, right? And you see kids that maybe have gone through the same things, and you
Oh, for
adjust.
sure.
You adjust yourself to whatever they need, and if they need more encouragement and more of a pat on the back and to be reassured, I mean, you know what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you do it for yourself?
Because it's like that thing, right? If your dog needs medicine, you'll go out and buy it, but when you need it, like it becomes
But then what's the solution if you need medicine?
to get the medicine.
Get the medicine, right? So if you you have to understand something. At 34 years old, you're not that little boy that was neglected and not told that he was loved and was not reassured of what your validity was and how important you were, not because you weren't any of those things, because clearly in your own life you're proving yourself to be important, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing it for me.
Right, but why are you taking a guy who could never do, which I doubt if your father could ever be, the teacher that you are?
That's true. I mean, everybody wants their dad to be their hero, right? When you're born,
but they're not.
look up,
What happens when they're not?
then
Should
you
we
have to readjust.
still give them the same look at them and revel in their presence the same way when they don't deserve it?
No, to be your own hero, I guess.
Well, I mean, here's my thing, Joe. You literally have proven that you have value in society in terms of what you do. You have like the first thing you said to me is this: you have evidential proof that that's the truth. You have testimonials. I bet you we could call up one of your students right now and they would say that. Yes?
Yeah. How do I translate that over to like building a relationship and like getting comfortable with intimacy? Would that be like exposure therapy? Just like
I mean, sure. I mean, exposure, I don't think it's so much. I think it really starts with cognitive therapy, and cognitive therapy is, I mean, look, I'm no professional. Look, I don't have no PhD. I just read a lot and I've been around the corner a lot. But what I do know is this: if it doesn't make sense what you're doing, right? It really makes it difficult to continue doing it, right?
Oh, like cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Well, in general, cognitive therapy is where reasonably your actions are unreasonable. They're illogical. The fact that you would take the advice of somebody who is incapable of doing things that you already have proven to be done, that you have shown affection to other kids, you have given children in your life what you could never get, right? Which proves what your value is. And so we gotta, even though I don't want you to hold a grudge about what you went through with your dad and the things that you've been through, right?
Hmm.
I can't understand why you would take his advice because this is a matter of low self-esteem, right? So when somebody
Yeah.
treats
No,
you
yeah, I got that.
when
Yeah,
somebody treats you kindly, you go against it. Why? Because you don't think you're worth it,
that's right.
and you don't want the guilt of taking something that you don't you don't think you deserve, right?
Yeah, what is it? Stealing the what do you say?
Shoplifting the pussy, yeah.
Shoplifting. Yeah, exactly.
But what I'm saying is you've proven that you do deserve this. You do deserve love and concern and consideration.
Okay.
And we know that. Why? Because it's one of the litmuses of, one of the truest litmuses of anything is children and animals, right? Because
True.
they take in the stimulus and then they give out. And when you are abusive or whatever, and we're not talking about once a child has been abused or Stockholm syndrome, but initially, children's response to you is pretty honest, right?
Hmm.
They
They're
trust
just
people
unbiased.
who they can trust, and they're afraid of people who are scary, and it's a really simple thing. But what we're also talking about, you at 34 years old are still taking the advice of your father, who was never the man that you are right now.
Yeah.
That makes ridiculous sense, right? It just doesn't even correlate, does it?
No.
I mean, if
Well, then
go ahead.
from like a healthy. Well, I wanted your opinion. So like, obviously, the 5 bricks, and like obviously rejection is a part of like,
Sure,
looking for a relationship.
sure.
How with your like wisdom, how would you handle rejection? You just
Well,
keep it
the
pushing.
thing is, because you have low self-esteem, you think that you're being rejected because of you,
Oh, true.
no matter whatever the situation.
Yeah,
So,
that's
I mean,
right.
I
Yeah.
literally was talking to one of the dudes who I consult with pretty regularly, right? He, and he's been consulting with me for a lot of years, and so he's learned a lot of the things that I've taught, and he actually, met a girl on Hinge, and he went through the date, and the date was perfect, and the girl was like, "This is the best date ever," but then the girl's, her uncle died, right?
Hmm.
And she was really close to the uncle, and then she traveled to get to the uncle, and then when she came back, the whole thing had kind of lost momentum, and then she just was like, oh, I just want to be friends, right? Now, don't get me wrong, it could be very obvious that she doesn't see him in a romantic way, but the thing was that he was really I think he was discouraged because of the fact that he felt like he did everything right, like and the reason why he knows he did everything right, because so often he's done whatever, I've given him advice and he didn't do what I told him to do. And so this is the one time that he did everything that I wanted him to do. And so he was happy because he said that I did it. I did everything right. And it still turned out, it still turns out for shit. And what you have to understand, I think, is you have to understand that you're not the only variable.
True. There's
She
another
literally had
individual.
and I've said this as a joke, not even not as a joke, but as a kind of a funny example. Like, you don't know if her cat died today, so you say you laid her 5 bricks, and some girl doesn't respond. You don't know if she found out she had cancer today. You don't know if her
That's
uncle
true.
died.
Yeah.
And here was
Yeah.
a situation where her uncle actually did die, right? And somehow he still made it about himself. And that comes from the fact that he has this low self-esteem, because you already feel like you don't have any worth. So why would somebody love me? Why would somebody like me? And then when you do, somebody does kind of give you those emotions, you start panicking because you don't think you're worthy. So you sabotage it. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying, you're 34 years old. You can choose to not do that. I'm not saying you're not going to feel those feelings, right?
Hmm.
Because we can't really control what we feel, but we can control how we act when the feeling
Yeah.
shows its head. And so you're calling me and asking my expertise about something that you already figured this out, right?
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
You,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
just trying to like like bake it into my brain, I guess, right?
Yeah, but
Just
the only
like,
way you bake it in your brain is by practicing. And so let me tell you something. So like I talk about this a lot of times, and this is me, uh, my on my personal journey, right?
mhm.
My dad was the type of dude who was always everything. Like he was like, the sky is falling. Don't go here, you're gonna get robbed. Don't go there, you're gonna get shot. Don't go there, you're gonna get stabbed. Don't go there, you're gonna get beat up. Don't get there, you're gonna get stuff. They're gonna murder you. The cops gonna kill you. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, I got beat up. I also got stabbed and all of those things. But he was a guy who was just, everything was scary. The world was scary. And what I realized is that the world was scary to him as well. And he was trying to protect me. But what ultimately happened is I grew up with this kind of this shadow hanging over me. That I gotta be worried about everything. Anything can happen at any given time. And what are we gonna, you know what I mean? And what I had to do was, it was just a matter of practice. So I had this thing I used to do is, anytime that I would feel that fear, and I felt like well, first of all, let me say this: the fear. My situation was a little bit different because it was fear, right? Your
Mhm.
situation is this guilt that you don't deserve happiness, and the reason why. Now, let's be honest. You think you don't deserve happiness because a guy who got molested or abused. I don't know if he was molested or abused, maybe both, maybe a combination of both. Who
That's fair.
didn't know how to love his own son, right? Is telling you that you're not worthy. And you believe that guy. I don't care whether it's your father or not, but I mean, who is he to have an opinion on what kind of man you are?
Yeah.
Or even what kind of child you are? Because even if you were a child and somebody was treating you this way, right? If we were on the
Mhm.
outside, I mean, you've seen this. You've seen this in your classes where you have parents who, you might have a kid that's like an overachiever, and what he does is never enough. You've seen
I
that.
mean, I've had them show up with like a black eye. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
because
seen it all.
they got a 95 on the test. My dad was like that. He didn't beat me for it, but if I got a 90 and 98, he would be like, "Where's the other 2 points?"
Yeah.
And so you end up in this kind of cycle, this desperation cycle where you're trying to please them, but you're trying to please somebody who you're never going to be able to please them because they don't love themselves. And why don't they love themselves? They don't love themselves for the same reason you don't love yourself. Because their parents didn't tell them that they should. The parents didn't show them that they were important. The parents didn't do this. And so, but what I'm saying is when you are a child, right? We have to figure out how to we got to figure out how to navigate this toxic situation. And so with our limited brains, our little limited underdeveloped brains, we come up with a solution. He must act like this because I'm not trying harder, so I need to try harder. And if I try harder and it's still a desperation where I'm never good enough, then I just must not be. I mean, my father said I'm not worthy, so how could I possibly be worthy? That makes sense to an 8-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Same way like when parents get divorced, it must have been something I did. Maybe if I had picked up my toys, they wouldn't have broke up. But it's also because maybe your pops was cheating on your moms, or maybe your mom wasn't giving your dad a blowy, or your mom was a bitch, or whatever it was. What I'm saying is, but as a child, you internalize that because you have a limited, undeveloped brain. The difference is, Joe, you're 34. You don't have an underdeveloped brain. You have living examples of how, when you nurture children, how they can grow and they can then thrive. Yes.
Yes.
Why does that not apply to you? Do you think it just
true.
applies to them?
Well, that's what I'm working on.
I'm not going to
solidifying.
let you do that.
Okay.
That's not what I'm working on. What I'm saying is, you know that as a fact, right?
Yeah, it's objectively true.
It's objectively true, right? Is that, and objectively true means what? It's the truth.
It's not an opinion. It's just
It is
straight up
the truth,
objective.
right?
Yeah.
So my question is, why are you taking the advice of somebody who had the inadequacies of being a good father to tell you that you're not a good enough son. I get
Maybe
it.
I shouldn't.
I get
Yeah,
it.
does it make any sense?
I
Yeah.
get it that you did it at 8, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to let you do it at 34.
Yeah, the things that served me as a child no longer serve me as an adult.
But then we have to reassess these questions, right?
Yeah.
And then come up with different solutions. And I get that it's habitual for us to go to those same tropes that we've always gone through, right? And get stuck there. But then we have to do that. So I'm gonna give you a little thing that I used to do. Anytime there was a situation where I wouldn't take advantage of, whenever I felt fear or when I started, doubting myself, I used to do this. I would say, armadillo, armadillo, armadillo. I would spin around 2 times, slap the floor, and then snap my fingers twice, right? Now, you imagine somebody doing that, like you and I are talking, and all of a sudden you ask me a question, and all of a sudden I go, armadillo, armadillo, armadillo. I spin around twice, slap the floor, and clap, and snap my fingers twice, right? How absurd is that, right? But
I mean, it's
go ahead.
whatever.
Yeah, but it's
So
still.
I was gonna say, like, what does it matter what other people think, right?
Ooh,
I mean,
wow, that's interesting coming from you.
I mean, I know logically it doesn't matter, right? Their life is their life. They're not.
But you are still putting that moniker on yourself. You say that it doesn't matter, but you don't believe it doesn't matter because you're acting like it does matter.
Yeah, deep down, yeah.
So here's what I'm saying, and it's not even deep down; it's right on the surface. Because the first thing when we started this conversation, you explained to me what your problem was, right? I didn't even have to figure it out.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is
that's
just bridge it so that you can stop, right? But here's my thing. If you want to lose weight, right, and you're overeating after 9 o'clock in the middle of the night and you're snacking, how do you lose weight?
Less calories and
You
exercise.
stop.
Yeah.
You stop eating late. And if you don't stop, right, then we have to assume that you want this condition because you have the way to get there, but you're just not doing it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And once you continue to punish yourself because you don't think, because that's what you're doing, you're punishing yourself. So anytime you get into a situation that's positive or a situation, you punish yourself. Why? Because a guy who was abused and didn't know how to be a good father told you that you're not worth it. Do you understand the logical progression?
Yeah, because I mean, I've been doing the 5 bricks and all your other stuff, but until I guess I deal with this core thing.
Oh yeah,
like
then you're just going through the motions. You're not really going to get the progress. And so when I do this thing, armadillo, what it does, it's a ridiculous thing to do, right? But what it does do, it puts the brakes on that what I call the stinking thinking. Because I can't do that, right? And then just keep. I have to make an effort to get back on the trend of thought where I start going, well, I ain't worth nothing and nobody loves me and I don't deserve. I can't. Once I do this ridiculous thing, armadillo, you know what I'm saying? It stops the trend of thinking, which always gave me the second to redirect my thinking. It gave me an opportunity.
Acting against you're, yeah.
Don't say what you're gonna say.
It's like acting against where your mind is heading. Like it's just literally choosing the other direction.
And then you got that second where the habit is broken, which gives you an opportunity to move in the other direction. And then you can say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to start dogging myself. I'm gonna here's something that's presented to me. I deserve it, and I'm gonna enjoy it. And don't get me wrong, the first time you do it, it ain't gonna. Now, here's the other thing about that. When you do something like that and you're with somebody else, even if you're on a date, right? You know what I used to do? They'd be like, what the heck was that? I would explain to them why I do it. Do you know why?
The vulnerability.
Well, it also makes them hold me accountable.
Okay.
You understand?
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
Well,
so
why did you just do that? Well, a lot of times I get in this negative way of thinking, and it's a way of me stopping that negative thinking so I could redirect it. I know it seems absurd, it's a little weird, but it's a way to stop me from thinking in the same habitual way that I can, and so I can redirect. Now, not only have you done the action, right? Now you've explained to the person who asked you why you're doing it. How do you possibly flip back into that negative mode again?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, you can, but it's hard, right?
Yeah. Well, now it's out in the tangible world,
Right. It's
as opposed to just in your head.
exactly. And now it's a thing, and I used to do that all the time until I didn't have to do it. But what you're doing,
Yeah.
but when you're living this, see, when you're with this girl or you're done, and she's starting to show you affection and stuff, and then you get into this thing where you start to get back into this pattern, right? It's all happening in your head, right?
Yeah.
And then you start reacting in ways that you've learned from when you were a child, when you had no control, when people had dominion over you, right? And because of that, right, you keep doing it. And then she's going, yo, what the hell is wrong with you? Everything was fine. Why you pushing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
But now if you armadillo, it's whatever weird, and then you explain it, how do you get back on that?
You can't. Yeah.
You can't. I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I think it's a goofy thing, and sometimes it makes you look like weird. But if you have a real explanation for why you do it, and you really don't, you start to not care. And you know what? I've done that, like back in the days when I used to do that. I've had people adopt it. They were like, "Oh, that's brilliant. You know, I'm gonna try that the next time I whatever habit they're trying to break. You know."
Yeah.
And that's how I started to change my thinking. But don't get me
change
wrong,
your thoughts.
it doesn't happen all at one time. But it with repetition it happens. And when you start to use logic and reasoning, it's like, come on, really? You gonna let this dude tell you you're not worthy?
Yeah.
I was in a really, really abusive relationship when I was in college, right? And when I realized this, I was, and the girl that I was dating at the time, her parents were off the hook. Like the mom didn't speak a lot of English, and the father, they was just wild. And then she would say something, and he would punch her in the mouth. And sometimes she'd have a black eye. I'd go to visit her, and she had a black eye. And then he would go to sleep, and then she would take one of the black cast iron frying pans, and while he would sleep, she'd smack him in the face with the. I mean, this went on like as regular. This is how they did. And mind you, the mom was Mexican and the father was Haitian, right?
Mm-hmm.
They used to beat the shit out of each other, and it was just the way that they operated. And this is what their kids, that this is how they fought. So I remember being at dinner one time, and I was like 19, 20, something like that, and my girl's little sister said, my girl said, "Yo, stop wearing my sweater," and she was like. Her little sister was like, "That's why your friend had an abortion," and then she was like, "That's why your friend's a lesbian," and I'm like, "God, like this went crazy."
A lot of escalation.
But it was the way they got down,
Yeah.
And
but they're always capable of changing that, right? Everyone's always capable of changing
absolutely.
the way they operate, right?
I mean, you've changed it in the way that you deal with these kids. You didn't do what your father did to these kids, right?
No,
you don't.
'Cause I know what it feels like. I don't want that.
Yeah,
I don't want that to anybody.
Let's not throw Diddy in the hat. This guy's abused people on every level, right?
No, that's true.
So people, but I mean, when people who have abuse or whatever, sometimes they replicate the abuse, and sometimes they go they're affected in a way where they go the opposite way. But what we're talking about is you as a grown man who can make your choices about how you perceive yourself. You are still taking the advice of a man who you admittedly believed that he didn't have the emotional or intellectual ability to be a good father. And he spent most of his time not doing what his responsibility as a father is. And yet at 34 years old, you still care about what he thinks. Should you?
Yeah. No.
No.
Not logically.
Not logically. Then if it's not look, everything I do is logical.
Yeah, no emotions. Seat at the table.
Never let emotion have to see. And this is what you're doing. And you're going back into these situations. And then we're saying, then the thing is, what people say is, well, I'm trying, or I'm working. You don't get that. Yeah, I'm not giving you that. When a baby starts walking, the baby's not walking until the baby lets go of the table or the chair and takes the first step. Now, they may walk crappy. They may be shitty at it, right? But until they let go of the couch, they're not walking. If they're crawling, they're crawling. If they're holding on and walking, they're not walking. They don't start walking until they let go. Now, even if they let go and they take one step and fall to the ground, yeah, it wasn't a great attempt, but it was still an attempt. They don't start walking until you do it. So there's no trying, there's only doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, Yoda said that. Do or do not, there's no try.
Do right, do not. Yeah, he goes, don't try, do, right? So
Yeah.
it's so philosophically it makes sense. I mean, come on, if Yoda said it, how can we? We can't deny
how
that.
can we go against it?
Right,
Basically the Bible at that point.
But here that figure out the little thing. I mean, you want to use armadillo. You could use that, or you could come up with your own thing. But have something to disrupt this, what I call this thinking, so that you could move past this, right?
Okay.
And just practice it. I mean, don't stop laying the bricks, because I always say, everybody said, should I get this together straight before do I need to get my job before I start? No, you got to live life in its entirety, right?
Yeah, no, everything you've said, because I have your Patreon as well, like everything you said about the brick, space, 10 toes down, it's all completely worked. It's just, getting past that once it works.
You are a 34-year-old man who still gives a fuck about what your inadequate father thinks about you. You understand that that's a mistake? Yes?
Yeah.
Then stop doing it.
I will.
You better. And I want you to call me back after you've practiced this. I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me what the disruption activity is too. If you're not going to use mine, make up your own.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna call you in a month. I'm gonna have just the baddest, most amazing hot chick, and I'm gonna tell her that.
You better do that. You bet. I mean, it's you understand. I mean, look, like I always say, real game is no game. But when you know how easy it would be if I was a teacher who was changing lives, right? And I'm sitting up with some cutie at a bar, and she says, "What do you do?" And I go, "Oh, I'm acting like this is game, but it's not game, because it's just my real passion is teaching kids." Really? What do you? I'm gonna do both parts. Really? What do you mean? I go, well, my dad really wasn't there for me. He was abused, and he was abusive to me. And my whole goal is to give children what I didn't get from my father. Really? Can I suck your dick? Yes, you may. Thank you for asking. Like, you understand how, and what I'm saying is it's not, that's also not untrue, right?
Yeah, it's just the truth, yeah.
It is. That's exactly why you do it. And that's why I say real game is, see, if you live in righteous, all you got to do is tell people why.
Yeah.
And that is the best game at all. You don't have a Mercedes Benz, you don't have a Bugatti. Yeah, I don't. That's not what's important to me. What's important to me is to make a difference in life. And there's gonna be, goofy hoes who want a Bugatti, but that's not who you want anyway.
That's true.
Because once the good Bugatti don't work or you can't afford it, they out too. You want like-minded people who think you're important and want to make you happy. Make sense?
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
34, Joe, you don't get to do this. You don't get to act like this is like you're 8 anymore. I usually, I put up with, I allow the misinformation up until somebody's 26, 27, because, your brain is fully is fully formed by the time you're 26, 27.
Yeah.
You are way overdue. He doesn't get
Better late than never, though, right?
100%. You're still a young man. You got plenty of work to do. You got stats to put up. You got numbers to put up. But my thing is, you 34 years old, you're a better man than your father ever was. How dare he have an opinion about you? You know, I was talking about when I was at the end of my stripper career, and I couldn't keep the 6-pack no more. Well, I mean, I could. I just, you know, I just loved ice cream. So, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, we had a chick who used to come to the shows, and we used to call her Big Angie, right? And Big Angie was 781 pounds, and I was her favorite dancer. And then one day, I was like not working out as much, and I was on the end of my career, and she goes, "You getting fat?" And I'm like, this bitch bends the couch. Like, if you go to her house, the couch was bowed in the middle. But the audacity and the confidence that she said that you 781 pounds, you come to the shows in a dump truck. Like, what are you talking about? But you gotta understand that people's arrogance, it's until they're checked. Until you, well, who are you?
Did you check her?
Oh, not really. No, because somebody who's 708. I mean, like, do I need to check her? You know what I mean? Like, it's just obvious. I mean, I think I did say she came to. I think she did. Said you take a Uber dumpster to get in. I might have, you know, but I mean, there's no joy in crushing somebody who's already miserable.
Yeah, that's not being empathetic.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, I might have said my little snide remark when I was younger, but I mean, right now I wouldn't even delve into that. But I'm saying you're better than this, dude. You're doing a job that gives that is powerfully important. You're taking broken kids and fixing them. Who's better than you? I mean, me, but other than that, you know, no more, bro.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Okay, Joe?
All right. Thank you, Dante.
Man, call back, please. I really want you to call back and tell me how you're doing and what you're doing. Check back in, okay?
All right.
All right, brother. Be cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Logic is important, man. And it's weird because we don't understand how important logic is, especially when we're in an era where truth is, there's what they call alternative truth, which is just absurd. It's just such a menace in society. We got another call. Let's go. Yo. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yo, it's Cortez from Virginia, man.
What up, Cortez? How can I help you, family?
All right, so look, man, I'm like conflicted with this situation I'm in, man. I got my ex living with me, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want her to live with me, bro.
Okay.
But
and
to give you context, right?
Yeah.
My bad. To
no,
give you some context, right? Like,
yeah.
We was together for about 3 years, and then I started noticing some things about her, like encroaching on one of my deal breakers. And that's mental health, and kind of like, I ain't gonna say she's suicidal, but the bitch like to bang her head on the wall when she get frustrated.
Yeah.
Like more recently, I didn't know iPhones could do this, bro, but this bitch beat herself in the head with her phone, and her head started bleeding.
Yeah.
So, and it was just off of her being so frustrated. So, pretty much.
Is she highly autistic or no?
I don't think so. I don't have any.
I mean,
knowledge of that,
is she weird and kind of like awkward and stuff, or is this just when she gets upset?
It's really just when she get upset and she gets so frustrated.
Okay, but you gotta understand something. When she does that, what is your response?
I kind of just back off, like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, don't do that to yourself, like,
right? But
you
then
gotta chill.
But it gives you it puts you in this empathetic mode where you want to stop it, right? You want her to stop it. And part of it, you want to stop it because you don't think that she should be hurt. But who wants to be in a situation where that's going on? Right? I mean,
it's more to it. It's more to it, though, bro. So, look, we had broke up. She got her own place, but I didn't have the discernment to understand that I shouldn't have her over my place, even though we just broke up. So it was almost like we never broke up. In practice, we were still together. So to sum it up, her fucking apartment building burns down, and by default, she just moves in with me. She didn't ask nothing. And she got these 2 fucking dogs that I don't want. That's also a problem. Okay. She got her 2 dogs in my crib and her there. And
how
it's
old,
like, I
how
didn't
old
even
are you?
hang
How old are you? How old are you?
I'm 26.
And how old is she?
She's 23.
Okay, let me ask you something. Do you think that she's so out of control that she beats herself in the head because she's out of control? Or do you think she does it because she wants a specific response?
Honestly, man, I just think she don't know how to control herself, man.
That's
like,
bullshit.
She don't know how to control those emotions.
That's bullshit.
When they come flaring up.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Here's the thing. She's comfortable doing that because you allow it. And whoever's been around her since this is her way of getting attention. You know? And I've been in a situation where in a situation where a chick would be like, well, fine, blah, 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 blah. She'd go, I was like, yo, get the fuck out of my house. I'd be like, yo, get out of my house, right? She would go, right? Now she didn't have keys, but I didn't have a key lock. I had a code, a keypad, right? I would like, get out. She would like, I'm going. And she'd leave, right? And then she would come back with chips and a drink. Hi. And I'd be like, yo, you just said you was leaving. I told you, get out of my house. And she was like, you so silly. And I didn't know, honestly, I didn't know, like, I've had girls who just, so I was even more, yo, get the F out of my house. Get out. I give you the, here's the thing. She would do stuff like, we weren't exclusively together, right? She would come in my house, right? She would, we'd come on. I was still beating it, right? And she would get the summer's eve, the booty soap. Yeah. So she would take the summer's eve and put it in my cabinet, right? And then put it in the front, so like I had to get around. Like then if I moved, like I would like. So one day she came to my house, every time she come to my house. And we was gonna smash, she would look at where the soap was, and if I moved it, she would go, "What bitch you had in here?" She'd kick my door and go,
"Of course, of course."
And I would be like, first of all, get the fuck out my house. not A1A. First, get the fuck out my house. B, get out my house. C, 3-7, section 2, get out my house. Right? And then she would go, and then she would just come back. One time she even looked at me and was like, one time she looked me right in the face and said, I ain't going nowhere. And so now I'm in a position, actually, she stabbed me. This is where I got one of my, she stabbed me in the leg. I'll tell that story another time, but she stabbed me, right? And and I said, yo, get the fuck out of my house. I crazy glued my leg up, right? And I couldn't, like, so what happened, she came at me with 2 knives, like double fisting it, like Trails of Trilogy, right? And she was like, yeah, right? And I ran from her, made the left turn down the hallway, and when she turned out the kitchen into the hallway, I side kicked her in the stomach. Boom, right? And I was, and just enough to knock the wind out of her because she's coming at me double fisted. Fast forward, and it was cool. It was like the back, like Sue, right? And she, grabs the stomach. She was, and then I was like, "See what you made me do?" I was talking all kind of cool shit, and I looked down, and as she, buckled under she stuck the knife through my calf. And I look down, and now the blood is squirting out, just squirt like a fountain, right? So then she starts panicking and she starts crying. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So now I gotta, old school. So I get the crazy glue. I put the crazy. I push the wound together. I get the crazy glue. And then I put the duct tape. I put some gauze and I put the duct tape on. And I'm sitting. I was like, yo, get out of my house. Just get out. Just please leave.
What kind of field dressing is that, brother? Duct tape?
I mean, you do know that they sell a first aid crazy glue, right? But that's neither here nor there. I said, you got to get out. She wouldn't leave. Eventually she left, and eventually she left and went to work because she had to leave. Eventually when she left, I changed the code, right? But here's my thing. If you're allowing this, you have to understand that people that like this attention, they're brackish, they're abusive, they're accustomed to the abuse, and when you tolerate them, it's a way of them to get. This is a 23-year-old girl. Is she going to therapy?
Nah.
Okay, so you have somebody who doesn't want no help, is not looking to get help. Where's her family at?
Look, that's the thing, right? I was going to get to that. She don't really have nobody in her corner. So, and I knew she needed therapy because her mom passed away. They was on bad terms. Her mom was on her deathbed, bro. They had an argument. Next thing she knew, her mom was dead. So she didn't get that closure. Her dad was in and out of her life.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm really the only one in her corner type shit.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm having this conundrum where it's like,
I don't have
empathy.
Listen, I'm all about empathy. I'm not about parasites. And you gotta get out. You have to get this person,
right,
because she will.
I might be an asshole, bro, but I'm not a heartless asshole. It's like,
not a matter. Okay, let me ask you something.
Just put her out, and she don't have nowhere to go, bro.
Well, then you have to set a timetable for her to get out of your house.
Yeah, we've done that because it's like, shit be cool. Like right now we getting along, we still be fucking and all that, but it's like,
that's another thing. You wait a minute, you can't dip in the honey pot if you don't want her there.
Bro, she sleep in my bed. What you want me to do?
You know what? I'm telling you what to do. You cannot sleep with her because it doesn't matter what you say. What she's saying to you, let me explain to you what she's communicating to you. I don't give a F about what you say. I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. It doesn't matter whether you're happy, whether you're not happy. You going to put up with me, right? And you may say out of your mouth, no, I'm not. I ain't putting up with this. And then you dip in the kitty. You have. So whatever you have said we do talk about integrity, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to have integrity, you got to stop hitting it. Well, I'm just telling you, if you keep hitting it, you'll never get out of your house. The only way she'll get out of your house is if she finds somebody else that she wants to abuse, and if she finds somebody better.
Right. That's also the thing, right? Like I said, it should be cool, and I put in a lot of pimping hours, bro, to develop her. She was unruly, but now she's a good girl. But it's like I said, I can't deal with that mental health shit, bro.
Listen, she's not a good girl. She's not a good girl. What she has done is learn how to cope with stay within the to go right up on the boundary, right, of where you will go. Enough of this, you out of here, and she just won't cross those lines. But she's not. It's always going to be a problem.
But see, it's not like I wait for an argument to bring it up.
Stop. You are throwing.
Always knows this
let me tell you what you're doing right now. You're throwing bail money. You're asking my opinion. You're asking my opinion. I'm telling you what it is. She's manipulating you. She's manipulating you with and abusing you. And she knows that you're not cold-hearted, so that's what she's going to. That's how she manipulates you. And that's fine if you want to put up with this, but if you're being honest with yourself, it's funny because I was going to talk about this when we had the technical difficulty. You got to be honest with yourself, dog. If you still sleeping with her, you don't want her gone.
But see, look, this is the part where it's like, because I kind of been practicing this shit before I really started listening to your show, right? Like the authenticity.
You understand that you're not practicing it. You are not
but
practicing.
Look, though, all right, let me
go ahead.
Go ahead. Context, like shit, because I told, like, while we was together, it's like, I got you, I got your back type shit. So now that I need to have her back, like, am I just supposed to cancel that out? And also, I didn't want to just write her off because she's having these issues. I wanted her to get help without my influence.
Okay, and
without,
why?
Like,
and what happens?
Okay,
fine. Now, what happens if she doesn't do that?
Then I'm gonna just let her be. I'm gonna let her flow in the wind.
Okay, and what does that mean? Flow in the wind, and she stay in your house, wait. Let me finish. And you smash when you feel like smashing because she's in your bed.
Nah, just look.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
See, I'm not really looking at it like that because
I don't care. Listen, I don't care how you're looking at it. I'm telling you how she's looking at it. If you dipping in if you dipping in the cookie jar, nothing that comes out of your mouth matters. You just yapping. It would be the equivalent if I ran up on you and I smacked you in your mouth and I said, "Yo, so what?" And you said, "Yo, you ever smack me again, you gonna have problems." And then I smack you again. Yo, watch and see. Keep playing with me. At some point in time, we all know that you a pussy, right?
Correct.
How many times I got smack you before everybody go, until I go, look, man, because after a while I'm gonna be like, look, I don't want to smack you no more, dog. Just go ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's exactly what you're doing with her. Every time you say "but," it's because you don't want to make the hard choice. So deep down, I have to believe that part of this you like. And don't get me wrong. Yes. Let me tell you something. It is an intoxicating thing when you are with somebody who doesn't give a fuck about themselves and thinks that being with you is the most important thing in their life. It's a drug. Trust me, I've been there. That no matter what I say or what I do, she's coming back. And why is she coming back? Probably because I'm giving her exactly what she wants, which is the abuse, to tell her that, to make her feel as shitty as she feels about herself. And every time I say, look, when you go back, listen to this in the comments, because the comments will tell you. Every time I say, this is what you need to do, you go, yeah, but. Let me explain what yeah, but means. Yeah, but means, yeah, I heard you, but I'm doing something else. And that's fine, dog. I don't have no dog in this fight. This is your life. You're a young man dealing with some crazy chick who will not get help. And at some point in time, you got to recognize that people, even though you're trying to help people, sometimes people's agenda is to be screwed up. Their intention is to lose. You don't have a homeboy that no matter what you do, no matter how much you help him, he always finds a way to screw everything up.
I actually do, bro.
I'm telling you that this girl is cut from the same fabric. That's just this. The difference is this is a romantic situation, and she uses, just like your boy will use his situation, pity, anger, guilt, and sympathy to manipulate you into doing what they want. Let me. This is something that I haven't spoke about before. Anytime somebody wants you to do something and you don't want to do it, the first thing that happens is they throw guilt at you. No, the first thing is they go anger. Yo, you don't even play with me. And then when you go, yeah, I don't give a fuck, get out. Then it's like, how could you do this to me? I don't have nowhere to go, right? And then, he fell off. Yeah, sorry. Then, so if you listen, then the second part is guilt, and then the third part is pity. It's when somebody goes, Um, you see me broken. You see I got problems. I'm literally beating myself up with the phone. How could you let me just do this to myself? And then when you go, yeah, you know what? I don't care about you, your phone, your head, the how you beat yourself. Get out my house. I don't need this toxic nonsense in my house. And you throw them out. You know what they do? Then they get mad again. And then the circle starts again. Anger, guilt, sympathy. Anger, guilt, sympathy. Anger just keeps going. Is he back on? All right. Yeah, let's take one.
How you doing?
What's going on? Let me just finish this up. And that's the 3 levels of manipulations: anger, guilt, and sympathy. And people go around the corner. What's your name, man? How can I help you?
Yeah, my name's Alex. I'm about to move in with my girl, and I was wondering if you had any advice for that.
Make sure that you say everything that you ever wanted to say. What
Gotcha.
I mean by that, like, okay, so y'all, how long you been with your girl?
2 years.
Okay, how's the sex?
Very good. I can't give her enough.
Okay, is it frequent? As frequent as you want?
Yeah.
Okay. Which I think you need to figure out how you live. Like, do you live by yourself right now?
Yeah, I do.
And did you live by yourself before?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm very used to it.
Before you move out, all of the things that you expect, what the things that are your non-negotiables when it comes to moving in with somebody, you tell them. I even say this when somebody gets married. I say, before you get married, say, listen, you want monogamy, right? Just for an example, this is not your problem. Just let me give you the point. The point is, you want monogamy, but understand this: if you stop fucking me, I'm gonna go fuck somebody else.
I've been wanting to have that conversation with her. Now's a good time, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And if you're talking about, cleaning up after yourself, because here's the thing, relationships, both of y'all come from 2 different places. Y'all are raised by different parents in different situations, different whatever, right? And it's difficult enough to make that work when you don't have these boundaries, kind of worked out. And I would definitely say, what I've learned through my wisdom is that everything needs to be said, even if it needs to be said, even if you think it might break the relationship up.
Has to be clear.
And you can't, and there's assumptions. So many guys that, they're married, they get married, they're caught up, and and then they end up in these sexless marriages because once they start living together and people stop caring, and because you're around each other, but you as a man, you still have these sexual needs, right? And because it's not new to her, she just don't feel like it no more. If you expect anything that you could think of before you get into this move-in, you need to say. And you need to talk about what the consequence of not doing that. I would never move in with somebody again and not say, listen, if I want to, look, I don't have a problem with being faithful. But if I'm faithful, and I'm not talking about if you're sick and she's on a period or whatever, you know what I'm saying? We're not talking about unreasonably. But I'm not going to have a situation where all of a sudden, even if it's initiating sex, even if that's important to you, then you have to talk about that as well, But everything that you think is a problem could be a problem. Anticipate it, speak about it, be honest with her about how it affects you and what you're going to do if she doesn't. Figure out what your non-negotiables.
We do get along pretty good. I just don't know what to anticipate because I've never done this before.
But then you need to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're particularly
the sexless relationship, that's the one everybody can
Yeah, but you better say that too, because just because it's hot now don't mean it's going to be hot later.
Right.
I can't tell you how many sexless marriages I've counseled. Or relationships where the woman won't make any advances at all. If they don't care, it's whatever. They don't really like you as much as they did, but you're comforting and whatever. And then the sexual thing, I mean, you got to date your wife too. I mean, you got to date your girlfriend too. Like the things that make her hot where she wants to blow you on the highway is the things that make her hot when she want to blow you on the highway when y'all are living together. If you're not doing those things and y'all both get comfortable, then the relationship is doomed. But I think you have to start with being honest about what you expect. Women a lot of times want the wedding but don't want the marriage.
For sure.
Or they want the relationship but they don't want. But then all of a sudden we living together. But you need to say it up front, so that when the repercussions of it happen on it, because here's what we do. We don't want to, this is what I talk about, how 90% of everybody who consults with me is liars. They're not liars in a malicious way, like, oh, I'm going to cheat on you, I'm going to this, I'm going to steal your money. But they're liars in that fact that they won't say what they really feel because they don't want to end up in some kind of confrontation. They'll avoid the argument. Or they won't be honest if they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Right.
And so they're quiet, and then they literally build, they build their own prison. And then they become so accustomed to not stepping up and saying, this doesn't make me happy and I don't like this and we need to discuss this and there needs to be compromise here, that they just live in there. This is the whole idea of a man cave. Like you work your whole life to get a house, to build a house so you and your family, and then you got to be delegated to the garage or the basement because you can't walk freely as a man in your own house. So you create this space. I mean, there's a whole television show about man caves, redirecting people's man caves of men who are in situations who I need to get away from you. So this is a room I'm taking for myself.
Well, it is kind of good to still miss each other and have some
that's
space
not what
apart.
I'm saying. What I'm saying is you literally have situations where men will not speak up because they don't want to be honest. They don't want to hurt her feelings. They don't want to start an argument. They'd rather have peace and quiet. But you got to understand what will happen is that those boundaries will just never stop. They'll just keep pushing back. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
So make a
Good
list.
stuff, Dante.
Literally make a list. I mean, if it's anything that bothers you, anything that, hair in the sink, cleaning the fridge out, putting stuff away. Don't use my I have a brother who was dating a chick who broke up with her because he told her not to use his bread knife on the marble countertops, and she did, and he broke up with her. And everybody goes, "Oh, you flipping, you jumping out the window." But the reality is it's not about a bread knife. It's about something I specifically said, "Please don't do that." And somebody going, "Yeah, I don't care what you think. I'm gonna do what the hell I want to do."
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
It is bigger than that. And so I think you got to think about that, including the sex, even though like right now it feels like, oh, it could never, like I can't give her enough. Yeah. Until she won't, until it changes, So I think you got to open your mouth. You got to be honest. And when you're honest, they love you better for it. Either they love you better for it or they leave. And if they leave, they're leaving because y'all are not really compatible in the first place, or you're dealing with somebody who's not mature enough to make is not even mature enough to make compromises. I understand this, and I tell everybody, look up the word compromise. It means that neither one of us are happy. We both give up something. Compromise doesn't mean I shut up so that you don't bitch at me. That's not a compromise.
Yeah, concessions on both sides.
Look it up. Am I lying? I mean, if you look it up.
You're not lying. I've looked it up.
Yeah. And so, compromise me. You don't make no compromise. No, you want me to do what you want me to do. You want me to sacrifice everything that I am so that you can do exactly what you want. And I've seen this, man. I can't tell you how many guys I've counseled who have, like you have this type A personality woman. She working on her master. Got her master's degree, working on her PhD. We're going to move here. Had a dude who, we're going to move to Canada. And he's like, I live in Boston. What are you talking about? I don't speak French. Yeah, we're going to move to Quebec. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to have our first kid at this time. And it's like, it doesn't even matter who you're married. You just have these milestones that you have in place. By the time I'm 32, I want to have my 2 kids. But all you are is a placeholder. It's not personal to you. She just sees her life in the way that she wants to see it and doesn't even know. And this usually happens when you have more of those parents, that high achieving parents who haven't given them, who didn't tell them that who they are is important enough. And so they're trying to create this facade of all the things that would make their parents go, yeah, oh, you're doing well, right? And meantime, you're miserable, she's miserable, and it's never going to end. What she wants and how she dictates what your life is will never end. You got to have real love. You got to be with somebody who wants to make you happy, who revels.
You know, one of the reasons why everything is so great right now is because off the bat, like I said, a lot of non-negotiables for the relationship.
Right.
And I think that really just set everything on a good track from the get-go.
Yeah.
But I think
so in other words, you was listening to my content.
I'm due for another round for this situation.
Yeah. You've been listening to my content before this whole situation.
Yep.
Like, yeah, I mean, it makes a difference.
It works.
Trust me, I know. But the point is, if you don't, and just because the geography of this is changing and that you're moving together, if you think it will change. Let me, this is something that, people say, do you ever just get a chance? Do you ever just get to love them? No, you always have to have respect for yourself and understand and communicate what's important to you, just like she's gonna do. I've never met a woman who doesn't tell me, is not verbal about what she wants. That's why I tell dudes, never ask a girl to be in a relationship, because if she wants to be in a relationship, she's going to tell you.
Right.
Two or three times after y'all smash, what are we doing? Where is this going? Okay?
100%.
Make a list if you have to, okay?
Yeah, will do.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Dante.
Anybody needs I'm sorry that things started so late and stuff. We had all this, but if y'all need a consultation, go to DanteNero.com. Click on. Really, let's go real quick. I don't like that he said trying to help, because I did help. You got to do what you got to do. So let me say that. But thank you for the super chat, family. Yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, Mr. Z. And what was the other one? Okay. All right. Cool. GYBB. Wait. First, don't forget the consultations. DanteNero.com. Click on consult. Don't forget to sign up for the Patreon. Patreon.com/manschool202. Don't forget the DanteNero.com. Click on consult and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the YouTube page, Dante Nero YouTube page, and the Man School 202 YouTube page where we're streaming right now, man. Thank y'all so much. GYBB, get your balls back. WWDD, What Would Dante Do? Sexual Revolution is being podcasted. Love y'all, man. Peace. We'll see you Thursday.
Man School 202. Better hear what I've got to say, because you won't get it again.
I'm not an alpha male. I'm not a beta male either. I'm just a better man. Well, put your happiness first, because if you don't, they won't.